We see, superpowers wanting to rewrite the multilateral order where everything is divided. We have seen that in the history before, and I don't think, coming from a small country, I can honestly say this is not in small countries and medium-sized countries' interest. Of course, India is not a small country. Superpowers very often overestimate their own power and underestimate their need for anybody else. This is not, mistake you're never going to make when you come from a small country. You always know that you need others. You need to work with the others. It is two big democracies, and I think we have to put this in the geopolitical context, what everybody sees in the news every day. I think when I go around the world, I see more and more countries want to build partnerships with Europe because we are predictable, which is nowadays becoming a value. When we take a long time to negotiate deals, but when we do, then we stick to them. We actually, implement them. And that has become something that is of value. For the companies, if you have a constant threat of, tariffs in the air, then you don't really know what you have the next day, what you can really deal with. Now, when we get there finally, then we really keep our promises and keep our agreements. I think this is extremely important. Now, the geopolitical context is that we see multilateralism under constant strain or under heavy fire. We might even see that it doesn't exist anymore, so we need to build new partnerships with those countries that we share the same interests and really to try to find the way. And that is what the discussions has been about. Actually also building confidence in each other, listening to each other, because we can do a lot together on different fields, and we have mapped different fields when it comes to my competencies, security, defense, foreign policy, then, maritime security, very concrete thing, where we have mutual interests, and then cybersecurity. Both we are encountering this. Also sharing information. We are entering into negotiations about that because, to make decisions, you have to be aware of the facts and intelligence that is there. Trade routes or supply chains that function, both of our interests. Clean energy, connectivity, there's a lot what we can do. But what we want this really to be is about, practical things and practical steps. We even talked with the ministers, is like, let's start with very concrete implementation things, because what it does, it builds trust. Yes. So we start to trust each other, because if you don't know the other part, and then it's like, how is the work really playing out? But if you already see the way the other party is working, then you can also know what to expect, and then it's easier. So start with, concrete deliverables, and there was a lot. So I think the feeling in the room is really genuine interest for building trade relations, but also other issues when it comes to geopolitical picture as well, because we see superpowers wanting to rewrite the multilateral order where everything is divided. We have seen that in the history before, and I don't think, coming from a small country, I can honestly say this is not in small countries and medium-sized countries' interest. Of course, India is not a small country, that's very clear, but still I think, there's room for cooperation for the European Union with India also regarding foreign policy. Yes, our regions are different, but we have some very common challenges as well. Let's start with the maritime security. very concrete, weaponization of trade routes, weaponization of supply chains that we see, and this is in our mutual interest that it doesn't go that way. So this is something we already have, joint naval exercises. We can do more of them. But also there is interest in cooperation between our defense industries, or our EU member states, and also Indian defense industry, because you can see that we have this existential threat coming from Russia at this time. We have our member states increasing their defense expenditure, and then it also comes down where you can buy capabilities and with whom you can cooperate. Yes, of course, in the first round we also want to this money to go to the European industry, but if the European industry is not able to deliver, then we can buy outside. And I think the competition that comes from also such a big country like India is also beneficial for our industries to work then faster and to find solutions. So this is something very concrete. Then cybersecurity. We have learned a lot being under cyber attacks and what we can do. And what I always say is that it's clear in the cyberspace that, the bad guys work together. So the good guys should as well share information and address these issues, because nowadays it's not only an issue of the hardcore security, but it actually has an impact on the economy as well. If companies are cyber attacked, they could go out of business, not providing essential services that people need. So there is definitely room for cooperation. Hybrid threats, something that we are encountering now, but I think the actors who are using this are actually the same. So when I look at the picture, the Indo-Pacific and Europe, our security is very much intertwined and interlinked. If you zoom out of your region, you can see clear patterns that we both encounter. I really have a feeling that our security is really interlinked, because I'm not only talking about the hardcore security, which is like defense and what security is. I'm talking about economic security, for example. We both face economic coercive practices coming from China. And, to address this alone, we are both weak, but together we are much stronger to stand up for this, because it's also, our companies that are hit, and if our companies are hit, our people are hit because of the prosperity and jobs are not there, and this is not fair. So again, that's why the free trade agreement is important, but also to think about it further, and there are other aspects there. So I was last June. I was in Singapore for the Shangri-La dialogue, and there was Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had a speech, and he was saying basically that you Europeans stay out of the Indo-Pacific, you deal with Europe and we deal with Indo-Pacific. I actually, coming from a small country, listening to that speech, I was like uncomfortable, because it sounded very much so that, we do here and we don't really care what you think. I think that's the difference between us and some other players, is that we really want to have this genuine cooperation. because we see, I mean, your region has worries, our region has worries. We don't always see eye to eye to all the issues, but let's work on those issues where we see eye to eye. Global challenges. I mean, countering, terrorism, global terrorism, gangs, countering also the what I said, maritime security issues. These are something that is in both of our interests, and we can, find those places where we see common approach. And then we can also, invite other countries to come in. We had the Indo-Pacific Ministerial, a very good forum, actually. Really, you can see the genuine interest of European countries and Indo-Pacific countries. So we had countries from, Africa to Asia. They're very much expressing the same worries. So I think, if the big players here agree, we can also, bring on board countries that are concerned about the same issues. Because also, I come back to the economic security part. The superpowers very often overestimate their own power and underestimate their need for anybody else. This is not, mistake you're never going to make when you come from a small country. You always know that you need others. You need to work with the others. Now, I think there, again, if we talk about the economic coercive practices, all of us are worried about this. Dealing with this separately, we are not able. But together we are able. So those countries who still believe in free trade should also stick together. And there is room for other issues to develop further. You can be geopolitical power if you are either a strong military power or you're strong economic power. European Union is not a strong military power yet. But we are definitely strong economic power, and that is our leverage as well. Now, coming to your question about factors of stability, because today we are we signed the free trade agreement, so this is really, I think, one of the factors of stability for our companies, actually. Whatever the agreement is, we need to know how this works. And we need to be firm that it's not changed by executive order the next day. Sure. Because, even if you have, whatever, tariffs or things agree between yourselves in a dignified manner, listening to the other party and understanding what are their concerns. But then, I'm a lawyer by profession. I know that every agreement is a compromise. You can't, go into the, negotiations and say that, we only have rights and the other side should only have obligations. This doesn't just work. That's not an agreement. So if we have reached an agreement, it's a compromise, then it means that we stick to it. Then also, our economies, our investors, our companies can, see, okay, this works, so it's better to take that route because, that is stable. Even, if we didn't like the some conditions for, every sector, it's different. But it gives you stability. So I think this is key in the world of, trade wars, I would say. Because there is a lot stemming from that. If you have, economic prosperity, then you also have, prosperity of the people. If you have prosperity of the people, then you have less dissatisfaction, and if it is so, then also less polarization in the society. So that's why I think the economic security at this moment is actually really key. Now, how do we deal with the real security part? And that is much harder because, like you said in your introduction, you don't really know who are your partners that you can rely on. Now, I think, and that's why we have also done this security and defense partnership with India, is that let's not put all the eggs in the same basket. And if we have, a lot of these agreements, then, we are not dependent on one factor. And that gives you stability, because, nobody can also somehow, use this vulnerability. Because every dependence you have is also your vulnerability. And make sure you're dependent on friends, because the other side might hurt you. But in a world where you don't know actually who are your friends, then let's diversify the portfolios, whether it's trade, whether it's on security, whether it's on other issues. So let's have more partnerships.